Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, The Gentleman Reviewer. So today I'm really excited to share with you my review of these Berlin notebooks. And the reason why is this is the first product that I've had a company send me to review. So just full disclosure, I got these products from Berlin Notebook at no charge to me for the purposes of this review. They reached out to me 6 to 8 weeks ago because of my interest in fountain pens. I was posting quite a bit on Instagram at the time of some of the fountain pens I was reviewing. And as those of us in the stationery community know, there's quite a bit of notebooks out there that just don't handle fountain pens well because of the water-based ink, whereas the inks in rollerball's water-based ink, and this one actually did have a problem with one rollerball, but I'll get into that later. But they'll handle gel pens okay. Ballpoints will be fine. Mechanical pencils or other pencils will be fine. But when you get into the watery fountain pens, especially when you get a wet writer, you can get a lot of bleed through, a lot of feathering, and just a bunch of other problems with fountain pens, smearing, whatever. So Berlin Notebooks wanted me to see how these handle some fountain pens, and I covered just about all the inks that I own in a different fountain pen on the initial review or my initial impression video. Let me see if I did right on here with a bunch of different fountain pens. So, and overall, I think it handled it really well. But to get back to my point, I just want to say thanks to Berlin Notebooks for sending me these to review. As a product review blogger, it means a lot to me for a company to notice what I'm doing and reach out and go, hey, I like what you're doing. Would you please check out my product? So that meant a lot to me, and it was a fun review to do. I haven't done a lot of stationery, but I'm trying to get more like pocket notebooks especially, and some bullet journals because I use those pretty often. So I received this about 6 weeks ago. I received this about a week ago. It took about 6 weeks to come in the mail. They were shipping it from Germany all the way to Colorado, so it takes quite a bit of time to get across the ocean, through all the states, through all the countries in Europe, and it took a long time. So my initial impression was, I was actually surprised on the size. I thought this was going to be like a standard pocket notebook size. So I have a Field Notes and a Nomad notebook, just for comparison, they're the same size. So let's see here. So I measured it out, and you can see it's a little bit bigger. So I was pretty surprised by that. It's about 17 millimeters or 3/4 of an inch taller and 14 millimeters or 1/2 an inch wider than the standard pocket notebook that at least we have over here in the USA. That can be a downside, especially if you have, where'd it go? Let me reach over here and grab this. I just got this as a gift. It's a Flint Leather Co. Notebook cover. This is going to fit your Field Notes or your Nomad book. But, since this is bigger, it's not going to fit that. So you might have a bit of a hard time finding a leather notebook cover if that's your preference. But these are pretty solid cardstock. It almost feels like cover, so you might not have a problem carrying it around in your pocket. So another thing that I really liked about these right off the bat is, I don't know if you can see how well you can see the writing, but it's 100% recycled paper. And I'm a big fan of companies that try to be as green as possible, even if they're a little company. I don't know how big Berlin Notebook is, but even if they're a little company, I like that they're doing what they can in order to lessen their impact on the environment. I think it's a big thing to take care of the environment for the next generation. So I appreciated that about these guys. Those were my biggest initial impressions. As I got to use these, I learned a little bit more about them. The cover, like I said, feels like cardstock, and it's actually 350 GSM paper. So for those of you who aren't familiar with stationery terms, GSM is grams per square meter. So that means if you had a square meter of this paper, that's how much it would weigh. So the cover would weigh 350 grams. The paper is 100 GSM. So it's pretty thick, has a lot of texture to it, not texture I want to say, but stiffness to it. And you can see I did my quotes of the day here, so check out my Instagram page for those. I'm trying to work on my handwriting to get those better, but the paper's thick enough to where you don't really see a lot of ghosting. You can kind of see, even on the video right here, you get very, very slight ghosting. And then down here you can see the R301 from Zebra did goes through quite a bit more than some of the other pens, and that's a roller ball, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. So it's only noticeable if you're looking for it, is the thing that I want to be clear about. I've got, I did a Jarbo bullet journal review, which I've actually got right over here for my notes, and the ghosting on that is ridiculous, but that's 60 GSM paper. And I've got another bullet journal that has 120 GSM paper, and there's almost no ghosting. So, like I said, it's only really noticeable if you're looking for it. If you're not, then you won't notice it at all. Alrighty, so let's get into some of my writing experience with different kinds of pens. So with fountain pens across the board, let me get back to the page that I had for you. So I took some time and used all of the fountain pens, or not all the ones that I used in the initial impression video, but some of my favorite ones. So the Lamy Safari, I have an extra fine nib on it. It's a German extra fine, and it was smooth, no problems at all. Pilot Metropolitan is my smallest nib. It's a Japanese fine, which is actually smaller than the German extra fine, as you can see here. I was surprised that it wasn't scratchy at all, because my Faber-Castell with an extra fine was actually pretty scratchy, and even my Nemesine Singularity was pretty scratchy, but my Nemesine Fission didn't have a problem at all, which is odd because they have the exact same nib on them, made by the exact same manufacturer. So that seems more like a quality control issue on the fountain pen side. The thing on this that I want to point out is the Jinhao X750. So this is my wettest writer as a whole, and then I have my wettest ink in it. So the Jinhao X750 only comes with a medium nib, and I put diamine oxblood in it. And if you ever use diamine ink, you know that it's super, super wet. You can see, like, it didn't, let me get a little bit closer for you. You can see no feathering, which I was actually really surprised by. That one I usually get quite a bit of feathering on a variety of papers. I mean, I guess I didn't on my 60 GSM Jarbo notebook, but, you know, that one's okay paper, but no feathering on this at all. Thicker paper tends to be better for those wet fountain pens because feathering happens in thin paper when it just soaks it up too quickly. So it just like soaks it up, spreads it out, and there you go. That's the problem with it. So overall, this handled fountain pens really, really well. Check out my initial impression video if you want to see me actually writing with them, but that's the result you're going to get. So this is where I used a variety of my pens, a mix of pens and roller balls. I said initially in my blog post and then corrected it later that I only have one roller ball, and I'll actually be ordering more this month so I can do better tests if I ever get another notebook to, and I know I'm going to get another notebook to review, so I need to get more of those. But I tested a Parker Jotter with a Quick Flow medium refill. Handled it fine. A Bic Crystal was fine. The Fisher Space Pen, that one I usually get a little bit of feedback from because of the style of the refill. It's a medium refill, and you have to give it some pressure in order to push the ball back to let the ink out because of that pressure. But it felt really smooth. My Pens by Patrick pen with a cross refill in it, I've had some problems with that, as you probably saw in one of my other reviews, or my review of the pen. That was my only complaint about the pen, was a cross refill, but it actually felt really, really smooth on this paper. I had a couple gel pens, and I was actually really surprised by the gel pens because down here, my Zebra Sarasa tends to smudge quite a bit. It's a very, very wet writing gel pen. And I've actually got it right here. So you can see, like, it doesn't smudge very much. That's a little bit of a smudge, pretty quick. But if you give it 5 seconds or so, very minimal smudging. And even after I'm done writing Zebra Sarasa with my quick, messy handwriting, it doesn't smudge except for a little bit on the exclamation point. So this paper does surprisingly well with gel pens. So that might be good for you lefties out there that like using gel pens, because it's not going to smudge as bad or pretty much at all. Getting into rollerballs, like I said, I actually have two. I have a Pilot Precise V5, which felt very smooth, but that wasn't a surprise to me. I mean, rollerballs tend to handle quite a bit of paper very well. One thing that did surprise me, I forgot I had a Zebra R301 because it's a, oh, sorry, I'm a little bit stuffy today. It's a cartridge refill, and I was worried that it was going to dry out because I wasn't going to be using it too much at the time. I was like, oh, hey, I've got another rollerball. Let's give it a shot. And that's where I noticed, like, it's very, very, very wet on here. And so if I flip to the other side, you can see right about here. Oh, I got that out of frame. It bleeds through quite a bit. And then, or not quite a bit, but right here is the backside of another Zebra riding sample. And you can see, I don't know if you can, how well you can see it, but you can see a couple where it bled, like a couple little spots at the corner of the Z and the P right there. And I think that's an exclamation point on the other side. But it bled through a little bit. Again, not a big deal. You can't really notice it unless you're looking for it. So that's my thank you note to Berlin Notebook that I put on all my social media pages. Otherwise, I mean, it handled the V5 pretty well, but that's a fairly, it's a 5mm, so, or 0.05 millimeter, sorry. Another one that I found that it didn't handle well was what are these called? A Sharpie. And that was a big tip Sharpie. So I just wanted to see, I was sitting at my office one day and I'm like, oh, hey, let's see how Sharpies do because I don't have any at home. You can see it did not handle the big Sharpies well at all. Quite a bit of bleed through. That's very noticeable. And that was probably the worst that it's done on any paper. And then a dip pen, which I only have at the very, very front, I think. I don't know where there's the dip pen right there. And you can see on the other side, right here, it bled through quite a bit. So Sharpies and dip pens don't handle well on these. I did find, I had a couple of old, of the fine liner style of Sharpie, the very, very thin tipped, and that one was fine. No bleed through on that at all. I don't have one close by, otherwise I'd show it. Oh, I take that back. I actually do have one close by that I could do for you. So this is the Sharpie pen, and there goes a notebook. So if I flip to the other side, you can see actually even oh, sorry, that's out of frame. I don't have the best setup for this. You can see no ghosting at all. So no problem there at all. So my overall impression of these, I tested quite a few of my pens on these. I don't have a very large collection of pens yet. I'm fairly new to reviewing them, and I've just recently started adding to my collection. Up until a couple months ago, I actually just had a few that I really liked, and I would just buy more and more and more of those because, they were what I liked, and now I've started to actually branch out and try different things. One thing I did forget to mention was mechanical pencils, and that one I wasn't going to say much on in the first place because across the board, papers tend to handle mechanical pencils fairly well. Much like that, nothing concerning on the mechanical pencils or nothing. I mean, they handle it well. No problems at all. I don't know what else to say. But back to the pen point, I'm just now starting to branch out into getting more pens and trying a variety of pens to find out what I actually really like. I tended to stick to the Parker G2s, I had the Graph Gear 500 for a long time, and those were my pens and my pencils for years, all through college. And then just recently I started buying a lot more pens and trying different things out. So in the future, I kept the other one I didn't write in the other notebook that they sent me, I just wrote in this one. And so if I get quite a bit more pens, then I'll do another test and do an updated video, especially if I get more gel pens and roller balls. And like I said, I'm ordering quite a few more roller balls. So I might just add it to the blog post. I might not do another video, or I could just add on to this video. That might be a good idea to do that too. But overall, again, I'd like to say thank you to Berlin Notebooks for sending me these notebooks. It meant a lot to me as a beginning product review blogger to have a company be like, hey, we like what you're doing. Can we send you one of these, especially so you can test out fountain pens? I hope you guys liked what I posted, both my viewers and Berlin Notebook. So if you like what I'm doing, please like this video, give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe to my channel, and again, just help me grow. That's how people like me get noticed, and it means a lot to me for that as well. So thanks again, guys. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you Wednesday.